You know, some drivers, they're defined by their championships. Others, it's all about their sheer raw speed. But today, we're going to talk about a driver whose story, it's not just about trophies or lap times. No, it's written in the absolute highest of highs and the most devastating, crushing lows. It's a career of almost unbelievable triumph, forged in the fire of personal tragedy. This is the story of Charles Leclerc. And this quote right here, man, it just gets right to the heart of who he is as a driver. For Charles, racing isn't just about the data, the engineering, it's a feeling. It's pure instinct. It's this deep connection to the car that seems like it was just born in him, something he's had from the very beginning. And to really get that, we have to go all the way back to where it all started. So let's begin in what's probably the most glamorous, high-stakes setting in all of motorsport. His home. A place where he was never just going to be another driver. From the start, he was a prince in waiting. I mean, you can see right here just how deeply his life was tangled up with racing from day one. He wasn't just from Monaco. Motorsport was literally in his blood. His dad, Hervé, was a racer himself. And that track where he first hopped in a kart at just 5 years old? Well, it was owned by the father of Jules Bianchi, the Formula One driver who would become his godfather, his mentor, his hero, and his friend. These connections, they weren't just casual. They were the very foundation of his entire world. And that foundation, it led to this journey through the junior ranks that was, honestly, nothing short of meteoric. But this incredible speed he had on the track was shadowed by an immense personal darkness, a darkness that would test him in ways he could never, ever have imagined. Just look at this progression. It's relentless. He didn't just show up to compete. He showed up and he conquered. GP3 champion as a rookie. Then, the very next year, he jumps up to Formula 2 and just dominates, becoming champion again as a rookie. This isn't normal, okay? This is the sign of a truly special once-in-a-generation talent, a driver on the fastest possible track to the very top. But it was during that incredible 2017 season that his entire world was turned upside down. Right before the race weekend in Baku, his father, his first hero, Hervé, passed away. The man who had backed his dream from the very beginning was gone. And look, that's a loss that would break most people. But what Charles did next, it's the stuff of pure legend. Just 4 days after losing his father, he got back in that car. He put it on pole position, and then he went out and won the race. Can you even begin to imagine the mental fortitude, the sheer strength of will it takes to do that? To somehow channel all of that grief, all of that pain, into such a perfect performance. It was really the first time the world saw the iron resolve hiding behind that boyish smile. So with the F2 title in the bag, the dream move happened, a seat at Scuderia Ferrari. But just as his destiny seemed to be coming true, tragedy would strike again, leading to this moment of victory so profoundly bittersweet it's honestly hard to even wrap your head around. After a stunning debut year with Sauber, Ferrari fast-tracked him into the most famous seat in all of motorsport. And believe me, he did not waste any time. In just his second race for the team, out in Bahrain, he takes this blistering pole position. He was on his way to a dominant first win too, until an engine problem just cruelly snatched it away from him. But the message was crystal clear. A new star had arrived. And then came the Belgian Grand Prix. On the Saturday of that race weekend, the entire motorsport world was just plunged into mourning. Antoine Hubert, a fellow driver, a competitor, and a friend that Charles had raced against for years and years, was killed in a horrific crash during the Formula 2 race. It was just this brutal, gut-wrenching reminder of the danger these drivers face every single time they pull that visor down. And in what would become this defining, almost unbelievable pattern in his career, he had to face his greatest triumph in the shadow of immense grief. The very next day, with the entire paddock just reeling, Charles Leclerc drove the race of his life. He held off Lewis Hamilton to claim his very first Formula One victory. And on that cool-down lap, he pointed to the sky, dedicating his greatest moment of triumph to his fallen friend. And if that wasn't enough, 1 week later, he did it again, this time at Monza, Ferrari's home turf. He fought off both Mercedes cars in this absolute masterclass of defensive driving to give the Tifosi the home win they'd been desperately craving for 9 long years. That's when the Italian press gave him a name, Il Predestinato, the Predestined one. It really felt like his destiny was written in the stars. But destiny, especially when you drive for Ferrari, is a heavy, heavy burden. The years that followed were filled with so much promise, but also just immense frustration, as that dream of a world championship stayed just out of his grasp. This chart, it tells the story of 2022 perfectly. Over one lap, the guy was untouchable. 9 pole positions, the outright fastest man on the grid, no question. But all that raw speed, it only turned into 3 victories. So what on earth happened? Well, the season started with so much promise. He was leading the championship comfortably. But then, it all just fell apart. Engine failures while he was leading races, truly baffling strategy calls from the pit wall. One by one, the chances just slipped through his fingers. The weight of expectation at Ferrari, it's immense, and the title challenge just crumbled under that pressure. But through all those ups and downs, there was one challenge that was more personal, more painful than any other: winning at home. The dream of conquering the very streets he grew up on. And we're not just talking about bad luck here. It honestly felt like a curse. Every single year, something would go wrong. A brake failure his first year, a strategy disaster in 2022 that cost him the lead. And then, most cruelly of all, in 2021, he puts the car on pole position. He's done the hardest part of the job, only for a drive shaft to fail on his way to the starting grid. He couldn't even start his home race. It was pure, unadulterated heartbreak. So, coming into 2024, the question just hung over the entire sport. After all the pain, all the near misses, all the heartbreak, could this finally be the year he breaks the curse? 93. That's how long it had been. 93 years since a driver from Monaco had actually won their home race. The weight of all that history. It must have been immense. And then, he did it. He actually did it. Pole position on Saturday, followed by this masterful, perfectly controlled drive on Sunday. He crossed that line and all the emotion just poured out. The curse was broken. The dream of a little boy, racing on the streets he called home, was finally realized. It was a victory for him, for his family, for Monaco, and you just know it was for Jules and for Hervé watching from above. So, unimaginable talent and just unbearable loss. When you boil it down, that's been the story of Charles Leclerc's career, hasn't it? He's won in the face of grief, and he's fulfilled a dream that seemed absolutely cursed. He has lived up to that name, Il Predestino. So the question is, after carrying that heavy burden of destiny for so long, what's he going to achieve now that he's finally free?